Hey guys, welcome back to the discussion. This is Dalton Smith. Insert your favorite rock and roll song right there. How about what's the one by System of a Down, Pogo? That would have been a good one. Or People of the Sun by Rage Against the Machine. Can I get a copyright infringement for saying the name of a song? Are you still allowed to do that in free America? If I say the name of a song, will all the music people go broke? I was asking my wife, what is the difference between me using a song on my podcast if I cite the name of the maker of the song and the song, and what's the difference between me doing that and a roller skate rink playing music if I cite the name of the song and the person that made the song? Just curious. I love the Michael Savage podcast or the Savage Nation, and I noticed he quit playing his intro, the one that was so good, Borders, Language, Cultures, and all that stuff. It's gone. So it's not just me, right? I guess I just need to quit whining about it. Just really disappointed in that. I loved discussing music with you guys. So I've got a fresh Dr. Pepper open. It's pretty early. The likelihood of me getting interrupted here is pretty high, but it doesn't matter. So how's your week going? It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Peaky's here. He just got his tank cleaned. He's super excited. I can't find the remote to his light, so he's in the dark. I think that he's okay with that, but I think that he's just not being real friendly. The catfish seems to be really happy about the whole ordeal, but I think Peaky wants his light on, so I'm kind of disappointed. Oh my gosh, I can do it by hand. Oh, maybe I can't. I don't know. No, I thought I could. I can't. Don't worry about it. Okay, that was a major sidetrack that I didn't mean to intend to do right there. So, how's your week going, guys? I've been trading this week. I've been making some pretty good trades. I'm working on a new strategy, kind of a scalping deal on the 5 minute charts. It's working out really good. Um, Big losses, had some pretty good wins. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still working towards the FTMO. Hopefully, I'll get that passed real soon. I pretty confident in it, actually. I've taken it twice. I've almost passed it twice. It's my earnings that are always lacking. Everything else is good. I'm really good at risk, control risk, and finding trades. I just get real antsy once I'm in, and my gains just aren't big enough. So I'm going to keep working on it. While I've been trading, I've been working on my website, which is omodalton.com. And it's a lot of different things in one. And I'm trying to like make a hub for people, make a hub for us. I don't have a members area yet, but I'm trying to make a hub where people can come and get help with business, get help with life, help with marriage. I was a mentor for a while, or I have been for a decade, I guess, helping people with their marriages, helping people with their businesses. I'm a really good motivator. I seem to have a gift for people bringing me problems in whatever arena of their life it may be, and helping them dismantle the problem, identify the root cause, and overcome it. If only I could do that in my own life, right? So, anyways, I'm trying to set up this hub. I tried to put a video on the front of my website, my main webpage. Go look at it. I think it's really awkward. I don't like it, but I'm trying to explain what the website's all about, which, there's some Forex training in there, some really great Forex tools in there, some links to the Ninja Forex traders are in there. The podcast is in there, like the link to the podcast. I got some fix and flip videos in there because I love real estate. I love contracting. I guess that's it. But I would really like to have a place where there's like mentoring, but I don't know if people would actually like feel comfortable like coming to me for mentoring in business and in life. I've really had huge success when I've done it online. What I would do is just go to Facebook groups, like marriage groups, business groups, and things like that. I mean, if somebody said they had a problem, I'd just be like, "Hey, my name is Dalton Smith. I'm a mentor. Reach out if you need help." And I've had probably like 25 people that have reached out, and have had really great success with them. And I just love it. It's a great thing to be able to pour out your hard fought lessons into other people and see them succeed, you know? So I'm trying to put this website together as a hub. It's kind of overwhelming. Um, so we'll look at it, see what you think. OMODALTON.com. Tell me what you think about it. Maybe it's too much, maybe it's too weird, but I just like the idea of having a central area. Um, anyways, um, I'm a big fan of Michael Savage. And so I've begun listening to his podcast again, just kind of for inspiration. And man, he was talking about the war today. And I was so surprised at his perspective of the war. Um, he's a pacifist, in my opinion. He's a pacifist. He was saying like shame on the Ukrainian president, which I can't even remember his stinking name now. God, names from my weak point. Let me just look it up real quick. 2 seconds for a Google search here, guys. Zelensky, of course. He was saying that Zelensky has a messianic complex and that he's going to get a lot of people killed and that he should concede to Russia the things that they need or the things that Russia wants. Like he was saying, like Russia's so big, Russia's so powerful, he's going to have to just face the facts and concede, and he needs to step down because he's got a messianic complex. And I was thinking, what is going on? Like that is absolutely not what I expected Michael Savage to say. First off, Ukraine was invaded by Russia. Okay, so as long as Zelensky has his people's support, I do not think Ukraine should give Russia anything, not 1 inch. And I think Russia should have to back out of Ukraine. And I think that they should have to repair the damages that they did to Ukraine. I do not think that if the Ukrainians want to stand for their independence and their freedom, that they should give Russia a thing. I'm curbing my speech here, okay? Whew, that's hard to do. That's like active speech. that's covering my speech actively, right? So let me say, so Savage was putting all of this in the Ukrainian president's lap, like he's doing something wrong, right? Like he's this like gun-toting macho man, like, oh, I'm going to take on Russia, and forget what my people think. I'm just going to go up against Russia because I want to make my mark on the world. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, was it not Putin who started this war? And wasn't it? I think Putin should be the one that should be to blame here, not the Ukrainian president. Okay, the Ukrainian president didn't go looking for war with Russia. Putin went looking for war with Ukraine. And if anything, Putin is the warmonger. Putin is the one that is putting his people in danger, as well as the Ukrainians. But Putin made that decision. The Ukrainian president is just defending himself and defending his people. And I'm so proud of him personally for doing it. Now, I'm not following it as closely as I should, and I am going to follow it more closely. The war, I mean by that. I'm curious what you think is going to happen in the war. Like what are the possible outcomes here? There was a CIA guy that was on the show, and he was saying he doesn't think China's going to get involved. He thinks China is like backpedaling now because Russia is being ridiculous. China doesn't want the sanctions. And to the best of my memory, Savage was saying that he thought China was going to get involved with the Russians, like fight with alongside them. I really don't know what China's going to do. Seems to me like China wants to prosper, so I can't see them ostracizing themselves from the rest of the world with sanctions for starting a war. You know what I mean? For joining Russia because this is becoming wildly unpopular. I'm curious. We say, or it is said that Putin won't back down, which I agree with. But what my father said is that Russia has a long tradition of people disappearing in the night. And I'm curious if you think that Russia's Putin's generals would turn on him. Do you think they would turn on him? Do you think that this war could be so unpopular with Russia that that Putin would disappear in the night? Also, do you even think Putin's in the wrong here? Do you think perhaps there's a chance that Putin could be in the right? I don't know, man. There's so much going on here, but I want to share something with you. Okay, so I shared this article on the Facebook page. You can go find it on the discussion podcast Facebook page. I don't know. The link is actually on the website, I hope. Anyways, Smithsonian Magazine. Listen to this. The 20th century history behind Russia invasion of Ukraine. This is interesting. I hope you can hang with this, okay? Because I'm going to do a lot of direct reading here. During World War II, Ukrainian nationalists saw the Nazi as liberators from Soviet oppression. Now Russia is using this chapter to paint Ukraine as a Nazi nation. This is super interesting, guys, if you like this sort of thing. So let me blah 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 da, 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 ba, 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 ba. Let me scoot down. Okay, in an essay published on the Kremlin's website in Russian, Ukrainian, and English last July, Putin credited Soviet leaders with inventing a Ukrainian republic within the Soviet Union in 1922. That's not what I wanted to read. I'm almost there. Hold on just a second. Okay, over the centuries, the Russian and Austro-Hungarian empires, Poland and Lithuania, have all wielded jurisdiction over Ukraine, which first asserted its modern independence in 1917. With the formation of the Ukrainian People's Republic, Russia soon wrested back control of Ukraine, making it part of the newly established Soviet Union and retaining power of the region until World War II, when Germany invaded. The debate over how to remember this wartime history, as well as its implications for Ukrainian nationalism and independence, is key to understanding the current conflict. In Putin's telling, the modern Ukrainian independence movement began not in 1917, but during World War II, under the German occupation of Ukraine between 1941 and 1944. Some Ukrainian independence fighters aligned themselves with the Nazis, whom they viewed as saviors from Soviet oppression. Putin has drawn on this period in history to portray any Ukrainian push for sovereignty as a Nazi endeavor, says Markian Dobzhansky, a historian at Harvard University's Ukrainian Research Institute. It's really just stunningly cynical attempt to find an information war and influence people's opinions. So here Putin is saying that the Ukrainians are aligned with the Nazis back in World War II. Okay, why does he say that? Dobzhansky is among a group of scholars who have publicly challenged Putin's version of the Nazi occupation of Ukraine in the years of Soviet rule it's sandwiched between. Almost all of these experts begin their accounts with the fall of the Russian Empire, when tens of thousands of Ukrainians fought against the Bolshevik Red Army to establish the Ukrainian People's Republic. Ukrainians continued to fight for independence until 1922, when they were defeated by the Soviets and became the Ukrainian Soviet Republic of the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. By leaving out Ukraine's short-lived but hard-fought period of independence in the early 20th century, Putin overlooks the country's sovereignty, says Dobzhansky. I assume that's how you say his name. Also omitted from this version of events are the genocide and suppression that took place under Soviet rule, most famously the Great Famine, Holodomor, which fuses the Ukrainian words for starvation and inflicting death, claimed the lives of around 3.9 million, or approximately 13% of the Ukrainian population in the early 1930s. A human-made famine. It was the direct result of Soviet policies aimed at punishing Ukrainian farmers who fought Soviet mandates to collectivize. The Soviets also waged an intense Russification campaign, persecuting Ukraine's cultural elite and alleviating Russian language and culture above all others. Listen, I know that's a lot of words. So, Russia starved out the Ukrainians, killed 3.9 million people, the USSR did, which was 13% of the Ukrainian population in the early 1930s. That's why the Ukrainians don't like the USSR. Okay. Okay. That's the key takeaway here. Listen, when Germany invaded in 1941, some Ukrainians, especially those in Western Ukraine, saw them as liberators, says Ozana Shevel, a political scientist at Tufts University. The Ukrainians didn't particularly want to live under the Germans so much as escape the Soviets, adds Shevel, who is the president of the nonprofit education organization. So the Ukrainians joined the Nazi Party. They didn't want to join the Nazi Party, but the Russians had just starved out 3.9 million people, so they needed backup. The question for Shevel is how to treat this history. From the Soviet point of view that Putin still embraces, it's simple. She says, the Holocaust aside, Ukrainian nationalists were the bad guys because they fought the Soviet state. Putin and other critics often draw on Ukraine's wartime collaboration with the Nazis to baselessly categorize the modern country as a Nazi nation. In a February 24th speech, the Russian president deemed the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine key goals of the invasion. Guys, have you heard this in the mainstream media? Have you heard the media touch on this? Putin views Ukraine as a Nazified country because the Ukraine sided with the Nazis in World War II. From the Ukrainian side of the debate, okay, the country's wartime history is more complex. Are the nationalists bad guys because they participated in the Holocaust, Shevel asked, or good guys because they fought for independence? For Putin, even raising the question is inflammatory. Any kind of reevaluation of the Soviet treatment of history is what Putin would consider a Nazi approach or Nazification, says Shevel. That is dangerous. To deny the claim that Ukraine is a Nazi state isn't to downplay the Nazis' wartime actions in Ukraine. Natalie Belsky, a historian at the University of Minnesota Duluth, points out that one of the biggest massacres of the Holocaust took place just outside of Kyiv, I should say Kyiv because I really don't know, the Ukrainian capital. Did you know that? Did you know that one of the biggest massacres of the Holocaust took place in the Ukraine? I did not know that. Between 1941 and 1943, the Nazis, aided by local collaborators, underlined, shot around 70,000 to 100,000 people. Shot around 70,000 to 100,000 people. One more time, shot around 70,000 to 100,000 people. Many of them, you guessed it, Jews, at Babin Yar, a ravine on the outskirts of Kyiv. According to the National World War II Museum, one in every 4 Jewish victims of the Holocaust was murdered in Ukraine. 25%. 25% of the Jewish victims of the Holocaust was murdered in Ukraine. Have you heard this? Have you heard this at all in the media yet? While Germans often think of World War II as a fight against the Russians, the majority of the fighting actually took place in modern-day Ukraine and Belarus, as well as large parts of Western Russia, says Dobzhansky. Under the German occupation, several million Ukrainians were sent to Germany to work on farms and in factories. Still, because of the Nazi racial hierarchy placed on Ukrainians above Russians, the Nazis made a limited attempt to promote Ukrainian national culture in occupied territories, a move that in turn helped bring some of the Ukrainian nationalist movement to the German side. Those nationalist groups certainly had anti-Semitic elements, says Belsky, but they essentially felt that or judged that they were more likely to get Ukrainian independence under Nazi occupation than under Soviet occupation. And there's a picture of the Nazis in Ukraine. The Nazis, she says, promised Ukrainian nationalists as much, at least after the war. But even before their defeat by the Allies in 1945, the Germans turned on some of their Ukrainian allies, including one of the country's most famous independence fighters. This is really interesting, Stepan Bandera. In his fight against the Soviets, Bandera aligned himself with the Germans. Listen to this poor guy. He aligned himself with the Germans, only to end up in a concentration camp. He fought for the Germans and then ended up in a concentration camp after he refused to rescind a proclamation of Ukrainian statehood in 1941. You can't make this up. In 1944, to help the Nazis battle the Soviets again, Bandera survived the war, only to be poisoned by the KGB in 1959. In 2010, Ukrainian President Viktor Yushchenko awarded Bandera the title of Hero of Ukraine, but the honor was annulled a year later. So this poor guy was put in the middle of a war. Mr. Bandera was put in the middle of a war, had to go to war, probably didn't have a choice, had to go to war, fought for the Germans. The Germans threw him in a concentration camp for 4 years. Great experience, I'm sure. To not only be in a concentration camp, but to be a German sympathizer who is then in a concentration camp and then pulled out of the concentration camp to fight again, and then later killed by the Soviets. That's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, right? The man was forced to fight by two countries that wanted to occupy his country, and then both of them tortured him and killed him. I don't understand the world. What's up, bud? Yeah, go on. I don't understand the world. I don't understand. That was my boy, Warren. I told you we'd probably get interrupted. That was one. I'm saying two more before this is over. I don't understand how people that have so much always need more. That's why I played that song the other day by System of a Down, right? Why do they always send the poor? These rich politicians, these leaders, these self-made kings made this guy fight and then killed him. Both sides did. So I'm going to say, why did Putin invade Ukraine? Because he feels that the Ukraine is still a Nazi state. Any independence that the Ukraine says that they want, ultimately he's going to take as an act of Nazi aggression. How absolutely insane is that? How absolutely insane is that? And the Ukrainian president is supposed to believe that if he gives Putin what he wants, that Putin will stop? Come on. When they pacified Hitler, did he stop? Or did he continue till he met resistance? There's no way Putin's stopping. The reason Hitler continued is because he took what he wanted and there was very, very little resistance. If Putin takes these cities in the Ukraine and Ukraine immediately enters into peace talks and there's no pushback, he's not going to stop. That's my belief. Anyways, what do you think? I thought this was a really interesting article. I'm curious what you think of the Ukrainian president. Do you think like Michael Savage? Do you think he has a messianic complex and he's dragging his country into a war to promote himself? Or do you think that he's a brave man fighting like George Washington, like fighting for the freedom of his country in the trenches. I'm really curious what you think about this. So, enough of that. I was going to tell you something because I always kind of try to tell you a story. You know, what do you want to know about? What do you want to hear? I'm really curious what your story is, what you're doing. What was your life like? Because I know that the story of the average American is an amazing story. The the things we have to go through to be successful in business, to be successful in family, and to be successful in life. I love the small businessman that makes it. Yeah. Let me tell you something. I was raised in Grapevine, Texas. Grapevine, Texas. Have you ever heard of that place? It is the hub of North Texas, one might say. I was born there. I was born in Dallas, but I was raised in Grapevine. My family did a little short stint in Garland, and then we moved off of Dove Road in Grapevine, about a mile from the lake. It's a wonderful place to live. There was still, when I lived there was no Gaylord, there was no Great Wolf Lodge, there was no mall. Tinseltown wasn't there. It was Movies 8. Yeah, Movies 8 was the hub. Let me tell you, when I was a kid, we were still riding bicycles, okay? I was a little guy. So I started smoking cigarettes when I was 10. And we used to get on our bicycles and we would ride our bicycles up to Northwest Highway, down through the neighborhoods, up to this restaurant called blank. I can't remember. It was a Mexican restaurant and they had a cigarette machine in there. And we would go in there and pretend we were going to the bathroom and then just pump quarters into this cigarette machine as fast as we could. And get a couple packs of cigarettes and then ride our bikes and smoke like kings on the way home. I was so proud of ourselves. I loved it. So we were always moving around. The other thing we would do is we would ride our bicycles up to a local restaurant there called Wilhoit's. And I spent various times at Wilhoit's, but when I was young, we would take our bikes and hide our bikes, and we would go into Wilhoit's, and they wouldn't let us in there because we were too young, but we would sneak upstairs to play pool. So the deal is that my parents they converted half of our garage into a room and put a pool table in it. And it was the pool table that they had at Wilhoit's. It was the exact same make and model pool table that they had at Wilhoit's. So me and my buddies, we had our own sticks and we would practice and practice and practice on this pool table in my garage. And then we would ride up to Wilhoit's. It's definitely me and my best friend. There was another guy that would go occasionally. And we would go up there and they would be like, we're going to tell management that you guys are here. And we would be like, play us for it. If you play us pool and we can beat you, then you have to let us stay and play. And most times they said, okay. And we were good on that table, man. And we would play them and we would win. We never bet money. We just wanted to play, and it was bikers, and stuff like that. And those bikers loved us. When we would win, we wouldn't let them push us around, but we were still pretty respectful as long as they were respectful. And yeah, so if we won, they would say, okay, you can stay. And when the waiters and waitresses would come up there, they would know us and they would always say, if these guys want you to leave, you have to leave. And the bikers would always be like, no, they can stay. They can stay. These guys are cool. These guys are cool. And we would sit up there and drink Dr. Pepper and play pool with these bikers. We had to be home early, so it's not like they even cared. They probably weren't even that drunk yet. Yeah, but we played a lot of pool up there. I loved it, man. Absolutely loved Will Hoyt's. If you've ever been there, you remember they had that car hanging from the ceiling over the uh oh, where you get the food. What is that place called? The buffet. They had the car over the buffet, remember, because it was a garage before it was a restaurant. And they had a pool table on two pool tables, one on each side of the bar on the second story. And then they had the dance floor down below. God, I love that place. I loved that place. Yeah, and then when we were teenagers, let's see, I would have been 15 and my buddy was 16. We would always go up there on the weekend. Then we had a car, we would go up there. And then when we were that age, we would hustle, you know, we were good. We still had the pool table in the garage. We would go up there and hustle people. Um, it never really turned into fights. Um, it was mostly pretty peaceful. But we were the young guys. We weren't supposed to be there in the first place. So if there was ever an issue, all they had to do was get the waitress, and then we were gone. And management knew us. They would just be like, "You guys got to go," And that was the end of it. If that happened, then we had to go. It was a really cool place to be from. When I remember when I was a teenager, my buddy had this Chevy truck. I can't remember what it was. I think it was like a '66. It was yellow with red flames. Yeah, you know who you are. And he was just the guy that would just do anything, kind of, great mechanic. And during Christmas, or one Christmas in particular, the lake flooded, and down by the core property, the flood zone around the lake, where the lake was flooded, there was like this hill. So like this little island appeared out on the lake, like a campground area became an island. And so we went around right after Christmas, probably New Year's, and collected all these Christmas trees. And there was like three of us in trucks, and we went around and got these Christmas trees and tied them to the back of our trucks, and would drag them through the neighborhood down to the lake. And down at the lake, one of the guys had a little like pontoon, not pontoon, but like aluminum boat down there. And so we would load up a couple Christmas trees on this boat and take them across to this little island, not more than probably 50 yards, maybe. So we took them out to this island, and we would set them on fire on the island. That's when I learned how quickly a green Christmas tree can burn. You ever seen a green Christmas tree get set on fire? Oh my gosh, man. So also on that island, I learned how to make napalm. Same, same time frame, same time frame. Super cool. Yeah, so we lived like a mile from the lake. My dad had a boat, and he would always take us out to the lake. Man, I lived on that lake when I was a kid. I absolutely loved it. We would go out there water skiing and tubing. We had a 88 Sea Ray, 86 Sea Ray, 100 horsepower. It's like a 16-foot boat. It was red and white, and I loved it, man. Like probably 70% of my memories are being on that Sea Ray out on the lake, man. We almost sunk that boat 3 times. Like I remember one time we were all out on the boat. It was always my dad with just a boat full of kids, man. And all of the kids, it got really choppy, and all of the kids were on the front of the boat. And man, this wave came. I don't know if you've ever been on a boat when it goes under, man, but this wave just came over the front of the boat. Like a little water was coming over the front of the boat, but not a ton, just enough to be fun. But anyways, this wave came, and it just, like, the front of the boat just like bloop, just went right under the water. And I remember like going underwater and turning and like running towards the back of the boat, but the windshield was shut, and there was like 5 kids up there. We couldn't fit through the little scuttle hole under the window, so I started crawling up the windshield, And I remember my dad's eyes were as big as saucers, and like I was on the windshield of the boat and my feet were still in the water, and he put the boat in reverse and backed up, and like all of this water spilled out of the front of the boat. Thank God the front of the boat came back up out of the water, and he was like, "Nobody move." And so we were just all completely still. And that that bumper that goes around the boat, that little piece of rubber, it was underwater, and the water was like 3 inches from spilling over the side of the boat. And he just had the boat in gear, and we were just like barely moving over to the shore. We were close to shore, thank God. And I think we were tubing or something. And anyways, we got over to shore, and everybody had like oars and buckets, and we were bailing out the boat. There was so much water in that boat, and the only way to get it out was to bail it or do the bilge pump. And the bilge pump was running, but God, it took forever to bilge all the water out of that boat, man. I can remember we'd ride the tube, and when the boat's going, and then they turn, and it's like centrifugal force that slings the tube out. Damn, it feels like that tube is going like 100 miles an hour. We had one of those big 6-foot round tubes that you just lay on top of. And if you were riding by yourself, you could lay on your stomach and really hold on good. If it was two people, you had to sit on your butt. Or I guess you could be on your stomach too, like that, but you had to cross arms. Your heads banged together like coconuts. My dad had this thing where he could, when you get a boat just at the perfect trim where it makes these huge waves, and he would just go in circles and get like this huge, like get in a slough and just turn this slough into like a wave pool. And then he would go out and then turn and put that tube, like how, like I said, the centrifugal force, and then turn that tube, and that tube would go right through those waves. Damn. When you'd hit those waves, I mean, it was like you were flying with the birds. You'd way up in there, that big old 6-foot tube would catch air, and just like, God, you better hold on. If you didn't, man, gosh, hitting water at that speed is like hitting concrete. It was so much fun. And you hit the water, and like you get the air knocked out of you, and like your hands are like, you can't open your hands. It's so much fun. Yeah, I grew up on the boat. I love that. I love that. I got rid of it. Finally, a piston broke apart in it. I think a wrist pin came apart. No, it had sleeves. It was an aluminum block with steel sleeves, and one of the sleeves broke. And it was before I had gone to automotive school. I didn't understand how to fix the boat. So that's life. So we got rid of it. It would have been no big deal after automotive school, and doesn't matter. Yeah, so listen, guys, that's it. We're a little short this time, but I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to you. Definitely go check out the website, omodalton.com. See what you think about it. Leave me some suggestions here of what you'd like to hear, what you think about what I'm saying, what you think about the war, what you think about life. Yeah, give me some feedback. Tell me what you think. It was great to have you here. If this is your first time, welcome to the discussion. Plug in and get involved. The point of all of this is to move my people, the blue collar, to financial independence. That's the game. That's what we're headed towards, guys. Use the website as your hub. Use me as a resource if you need help. Click that contact page and get in touch. Yeah, so we'll see you next time. Have a good night.